Okay, it's time to begin this evening. Had a little bit of cord wrapping problem there. Didn't see that was messed up. We'll be starting on finishing up question 2 on lesson 73 this evening. I think we got 2 of the 3 questions that he asked there, and we didn't really hit the last question on that. Make sure I've got all the remotes. Okay. Before we begin this evening, Roger, would you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Father in heaven, we're so thankful for this time that we could gather together and study more of your word. Father, we're thankful for Jesus and his love and his care for us. We might be perfect in thy sight as we live our lives, that we attempt to live it as closely as we can to walk with thee. Pray, Heavenly Father, that you will forgive us of our sins, continue with us through this study, help us to open our minds that we might learn from thee. In Christ's name we pray.
Amen. So we're on this question 2. We talked about Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus coming to claim the body of Jesus, and that would have probably got them kicked off the council, but definitely it would have made them unclean for the rest of the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Feast of Ingathering, the New Harvest Festival at the end of that, of the barley harvest. And then we have that other little question of what did these men do before burying Jesus in a new and nearby tomb? Just any one.
I think, yes, one of the soldiers apparently wanted to make sure that the fourth body...
Well, no. This is on question 2. This is after Jesus has been taken off the cross.
They wrapped him in a linen cloth.
Okay, and what else?
Divided by putting some perfume of some kind, expensive
The spice?
spices.
Yeah. They would have put 100 pounds mixture of myrrh. Technically, that's litres there, which is 3/4 of a pound. It's about 12 ounces. So about 75 pounds of that resin was put on the body of Jesus. And some comment that that it's a resin, and it tends to not get harder, but kind of melt a little bit possibly after it's wrapped. And so technically the body it may have been sticky by the time that the first day of the week came around. But they did put that 100-pound portion of myrrh there. So, Chris, we'll start with you with number 3.
Who watched where the body was laid after seeing the Lord place in sepulchre? Where did these individuals go? What did they do? The women from Galilee, they also went to prepare their spices.
Okay. So again, you have 2 or more people that were witnesses of where Jesus' body was laying. We have the witnesses of the women as Christ was put on the cross, at the midpoint at noon, as Christ was on the cross, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at the death of Jesus, and then again somewhere between 3 and 6 as the body was laid in the tomb. So the eyewitnesses are sure on that, even though, as we mentioned, the testimony of what women did not have under Jewish law, or under Jewish tradition, the weight that a man's testimony had. Now here's a picture of a tomb that might have been similar to what Joseph of Arimathea had. You can see it's carved out of rock, and it's actually below grade. That's where you'd see that. It talks about them stooping down to look in there. You've got a couple of things. Number one, it's not light in the tombs, and it is down. You have to go down, so it would not be quite as easy to see. And this is an acrocilium where the bodies might have been laid. We remember that the angel sat on this ledge, on a ledge, so this might have been the way. There's another way they had benches that were out, but this is probably the most likely way that the tomb was set up. And then also remember that at least after the return, after the Maccabean period and later, the Jews tended to wait a year after all the flesh had decayed, and they put the bones in an ossuary, into a jar. So it would take up less room. So that's basically where we're at there. Okay, and then we have now note, and Chris had mentioned it before it was night, so that's why I would think this was probably between 4 and 5 would be when I would guess that Jesus was done, because they had enough time before the Sabbath to return and prepare some of the spices. But again, Justin in his question noted that it was a nearby tomb, and that's one of the main interesting things. So, question 4, Sherry?
On Saturday, the chief priests and the Pharisees requested a guard from Pilate. Why? The Jews feared that someone would take him. He had told them that he would rise on the third day.
Yeah. But wait a minute. Didn't the false testimony talk about it being the temple that he was talking about? These Jews knew exactly, from Matthew 27, they knew exactly what he was talking about. And when you look at it, the destroy here is a second person plural imperative. It could be translated, you all, or the group of you, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. And that's first person, future, singular. So from the actual language, Christ was talking about, you folks destroy this temple, and they did. They delivered Christ over to the Romans for him to be crucified, but they knew exactly at that time what he was talking about. They were more astute than the or at least at the time of his crucifixion, they knew exactly what he was talking about, that he was not talking about the temple. So, and I want to go back. So note again, they gathered together with Pilate. Did they go outside the Pilate's residence or where he was at and do a, you come out here to us so that they wouldn't become unclean? Don't know, and the word there does not indicate enough to know where it was that they gathered together. But then again, on the Sabbath, they gathered together with Pilate, which was interesting. And again, in verse 66 of Matthew 27, they went and made the grave secure, and along with the guards set a seal on the stone. So again, it was sealed on Saturday. It could not be tampered with without knowing that something had happened. So now we get on the Resurrection Sunday time frame. This is, note that I have about 0600. It's daybreak. It's going to be a little bit earlier than 6 at this time. It's been a little bit over 50 days, probably about 60 days since the vernal equinox. So it will be a little bit earlier, maybe 5:30, something like that. And these will be a little bit later, but just for ease, around 600, and then the report to the 12, we know it was in the evening. And the evening on the road to Emmaus would have probably been somewhere in the 1500 to 1700 period, because you've got to leave time for those from Emmaus to travel back to the disciples. Okay. So now, number 5, Roger.
Because on Sunday, an earthquake occurred, and an angel descended, rolled back the stone. What happened to the guards? Well, they shrank from fear and became like dead men. Are the guards present when the women arrived? I couldn't tell.
Yeah. If anyone can tell, it's Christ, it's the Godhead, because we're not really told. The way that it's written, they may have been still there when the women arrived, but they're not noted. What occurs to them was told after the women came, but we don't know. They could have left right before. They could have left sometime after the women got there, the women not seeing them. We don't know. Was that all the question, or was there another part? That's it? Okay. Let's see what else he's got. So, again, a core of the same people that had seen Christ throughout, the same women who had seen that. Now, talks about came to the tomb early while it was still dark. The easiest way to explain that is that they started out when it was dark and got to the tomb right at sunup, which is very possible. All the synoptic accounts talking about the sun having risen. And they went, and as they were walking, they were worrying about who will roll the stone away for us. And then they saw that it had been rolled away. And Matthew's account explains how some of the occurrences that occurred simultaneous to that. then they look in to the tomb. Kyle, do you want to take number 6 or skip you? Okay. Don, number 6.
The woman who entered the tomb are instructed by the angels to do what? To come see the place where they laid him and to go to Galilee. What they were instructed to do. Or the woman present when Peter, John, and Mary Magdalene arrived. I think so. I'm not so sure on this.
Well, yeah. And here's, okay, here's a bit of a problem. And it depends on how one takes this. Mary Magdalene, who was part of the women that came to the tomb at first and saw that it was empty? Who's mentioned in 3 of the 4 accounts? Mary Magdalene. She was part of this group of women that went there. What you have to remember is you have them and Mary may have been like Peter. She may have traveled faster than the others. But okay. She goes back. But let's look at what the angels said first. And there's no problem with some of the accounts talking about 2 angels and some one. It's probably the one speaking. That's not anything unusual. But note here, he has risen. The he has risen is through all 3 accounts. The fact that Jesus was risen was given to all the women. Keep that in mind, including Mary Magdalene. And he has risen here as an aorist passive here, just so that you know. And going quickly and tell his disciples and Peter, he's going before you to Galilee. The interesting thing is in verse 7, it's an aorist active where it talks about that, saying the Son of Man must be delivered. But be that as it may, we'll not go into that any deeper than that. So you have that occurring, and then all of them return from the tomb. Mary may have been the spokesman. She may have just been the one that got there a little bit faster. But what does she say? What did the angel tell them? He has risen. They couldn't believe, they didn't believe what the angel had said. Their human finite mind, even though Christ had said it several times, the angel had said it, they could not comprehend that it was so that Jesus had risen. So they took what they, from their human reasoning, We don't know where they laid him. And note that's in John, it talks about Mary. But note it says, we do not know where they have taken him. You've got a plural there. So she's basically the spokesman for all the women. Now what you also have to realize is when Peter and John take out and run to the tomb, guess who has to be following? Mary Magdalene and the rest of the women that had been down there. They go back again. So the way Justin words this question is probably not correct, because from Luke's account, we know that they all returned. So you have Peter and John going out there. Number 7. Levine? No. Eric, you want to take that? Okay. We have, again, I disagree with his question, because that's not exactly what we're told there.
They were still kind of in disbelief that he actually raised him. And another thing is that the religious leader did not forget that he said that he wouldn't have to, but for some reason they found it difficult to remember that he actually raised him from the dead.
Okay. Now, remember what Mary had told them. They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him. The question is, we know that John believed something, but it's not crystal clear what he believed, because he goes in the next statement, as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise again from the dead. It may have been that they just basically didn't believe the women saying that the body's not there. So is this believing that the body is not there because he had his eyes to see that? Possibly. And it could have been that he believed that Jesus had risen, but as you read on through the appearances, and with the next verse saying they did not yet understand, it seems more likely that what he believed was that the body was not there. And then again, he could have also believed that, well, Christ has been taken up like Elijah was taken up, and like Enoch. That may have been what he was thinking. He believed something. That we know for sure. Whether he believed that Jesus must rise again from the dead, we don't know for sure, and verse 9 kind of mitigates against that. But, be that as it may, they do believe that the body is no longer there.
Don't you think verse 7 kind of convinced him? It said he saw the face cloth rolled up in place by itself, because the body was completely wrapped in it.
It's possible. But again, what did he believe? Did he believe that he was taken up like Elijah was taken up? That could have been something that he might have thought. The body of Moses was never found. It's kind of it's not definite what he believed there. But he did believe something. Okay. And Lynn, Number 8.
Who does Jesus appear to first? Mary Magdalene? Who else sees Jesus on this Sunday? The other women with Mary, Peter in Jerusalem, and 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we'll bring it there. Should be able to. So we know that Mary Magdalene was the first one that he saw. And she sees 2 angels again when she goes back. Peter and John go back to their dwelling places. By the way, when it says houses in the previous verse, so the disciples went away again to their own homes. That actually means dwellings. So it could have been the lodgings that they were staying at there at Jerusalem, which is the probable meaning. It isn't oikeo, which is house. It's the dwelling place. So when she came back, she saw 2 angels, and they said, why are you here? Why are you weeping? It should have been a joyous occasion. So what was the first thing that he said to her?
It's interesting that angels asked her why she was weeping, and Jesus asked why she was weeping. That's kind of interesting.
And that gets back to the point of should have been a time of rejoicing. What Jesus said would happen did happen, but they couldn't believe that it happened yet. But it should have been a joyful thing. But Jesus says, woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking? He's being very questioning here so that when she recognizes him, there's no question that it is the risen Jesus. And again, they may have carried him away. Now, where had she been looking? In the first paragraph there. Into the tomb. So she was looking into the tomb. That's where the angels were. Because they were in where Jesus had been laid. What happens when you're looking into a dark place and then turn around into a light place? Don, you're an optometrist. Yeah, and when you turn back around, you're not going to see very well, are you? That tomb, which was representative of the type of tomb that we saw there, if you were down there at the entrance looking in, and your pupils had dilated to look in and see the angels, now they could have been glowing, I'll grant that. But looking in there doesn't say anything about them glowing, so therefore we'll not assume that. The pupils had to dilate, and when you turn back around, you're going to be a little bit bright. The fact that she didn't recognize Jesus here doesn't necessarily have to do with anything of a direct operation of the Lord. Now, the road to Emmaus was different. But here, it could have been just the idea of looking into a dark place and then turning around into a light place and not doing that. And she And she just turned around to see him, and then she turned back and looked into the tomb. Because again, it says she turned and said to him in Hebrew. She had to turn back to him after she had already turned around once. So apparently she turned around again and looked into the tomb. So when he said Mary, she recognized that it was him. Jesus told her to stop clinging to him. I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go tell my brethren and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, and my God and your God. Note, my Father, my God, versus your Father and your God. So she went back to the disciples and said she had seen the risen Lord. This is the first report of someone who had seen Jesus after the resurrection. We had the report of the empty tomb before, but now it's the risen. Was she believed? Was she believed? No.
I thought you said, did she?
No. Well, she believed, but was she believed? And she was not. She wasn't reported just like she was told to, but the disciples did not believe that. Okay, where are we at here? Yeah, we haven't got to. Of course, the guards. We have an interlude. Exactly when this happened, we don't know, because it's put in down here, but let's look at Matthew 28. The other women that had seen the empty tomb went back to the tomb also. Again, Mary may have traveled faster, just like Peter. But they came. What did they do when they met Jesus? They worshiped him. Some have made the point that this is one of two times after he was resurrected that people worshipped him, and that's true. But Matthew 2:11, the wise men worshipped the Christ. In Matthew 14:33, after Jesus had walked on the water and called Peter out and saved Peter, it says they worshiped him there. And then you get in the, and also in John 9:38, the man born blind from birth in John 9:38 worshiped Christ. So there's three pre-resurrection appearances, three pre-resurrection occasions when it says people worshipped him. But that's all, and then two afterwards. And this is one of the two. Again, he said to take the word back. First of all, do not be afraid, because all of them were afraid. Again, nothing like this had ever happened before, because this was not just a person that had been raised from the dead to die physically again. This was a person that rose again and would not die a physical death again. So, that's different. So, note they gave him, the guards, a large sum of money. And they also said if the governor comes to the governor's ears, will keep you out of trouble. What fallacies are in this story of what they said? Their statement that they were to proclaim. His disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep.
They placed guards at the tomb.
Well, I know, but these are the guards that were at the tomb that became as dead men.
Well, I'm saying, though, they couldn't have come and stolen the body because there were guards placed at the tomb.
Well, they said they fell asleep.
That was after the graves.
Huh?
That was after
No.
the graves.
No. No. The whole argument here is they came and took the body, the disciples came and took the body away while we were sleeping. What's the problem with that statement?
Oh God, if they failed to perform that duty, it could be death for them.
Okay, number one, yes, it could mean death for them, falling asleep. Korean soldiers, even as late as 40 years ago, found sleeping could get the death penalty.
I think in removing the big stone, it would cause a lot of noise.
Yeah. How do they know what happened if they were asleep?
True.
How do they know what happened and who made it happen while they were asleep?
They would certainly not admit that they were asleep.
I know. They wouldn't admit they were asleep, and if they were asleep, they wouldn't have known what happened. It's fallacious. There's all kinds of logical fallacies in what they're saying there. So that was something that was said. And it's not something that could possibly happen. Okay. Any other comments about this?
Could this stone, I always visualize it being rolled downhill. Could it be rolled back? It's not rolled downhill. I thought this, I mean, even the
There would be a slight downhill incline for the stole to roll down into place. So to push it back up, it would have to go up a slight incline. Doesn't have to have much, but a slight incline up to the flat, or actually probably a concave resting place for it. But yes, it would have been harder even at that. But it wasn't all that hard to move it. But for a group of women to move it, it would have been a little bit hard. Then we have the group on the road to Emmaus. You'll find lots of people saying Peter is one of them that were on the road to Emmaus. Doesn't make sense from what Luke writes. We know that in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul tells us that Peter was one of them that saw the risen Savior early. So it's about 7 miles from Jerusalem to Emmaus. And people aren't sure exactly where Emmaus was. That hasn't been irrefutably ascertained yet, but it was in a close proximity. And Jesus told them, "What are these words that you're exchanging with one another as you are walking?" And they recited the things. They said, "You don't know what's happened at Jerusalem today?" And Christ replies, "What things?" And then they went in and told all the things that was seen. Now, one thing about this is that this statement here, they may have not heard the final reports from Mary Magdalene and the women that they had seen him. All that they had was that the angels had said he was alive, which would have been the empty tomb appearance, the empty tomb incident before the first appearance of Christ. So possibly, probably they had not gotten the word, but it would take a while. They didn't have text that gets out instantaneously. So they had only heard about the early morning incident without the follow-ups to that. Then Jesus said, "O foolish men and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken, was it not necessary for Christ to suffer these things and to enter into his glory?" And then he said, in beginning with Moses, with all the prophets, he explained things concerning himself in all the scriptures. So Moses and the prophets are mentioned here, and I think there are some texts that include the writings. I know at some point, but basically the entire Old Testament, he talks about that. There's him to stay. Note, it is getting toward evening when that they asked him in. And they said the day is nearly over. That's why I'd say probably, this is probably 1600 to 1700, because they've got to get back 7 miles to Jerusalem after their eyes were opened and they recognized them. Okay, any comments up to that point? Yeah, well, we'll probably, Jeff may or may not start there. He might just go to the question that's there. But I think there's a lot to be learned from the report about the trip to Emmaus. Thank you.